Now at noon, Saracen Casino Resort's long-awaited sports betting app is now online. We've got the details in just a few minutes. Plus, the mystery hepatitis X syndrome may have reached Arkansas. What parents need to know about the illness. Plus, President Biden is expected to lay out what he's doing to lower costs for American families as inflation continues to take a toll on the country. The impact it's already had in just the last few weeks. And you could be eligible for a refund thanks to a TurboTax lawsuit. More on the settlement and what you need to do to get your money coming up at 12:18. But first, meteorologist Nathan Scott is here with another day of heat on tap for us. Nathan, it's hot out there.
Good afternoon, Mackailyn. Yeah, we are seeing temperatures once again off to the races. Temperatures already warming up to the low to mid 80s across the region under a mixture of sun and clouds. You see the clouds popping up here in White County, stretching down into Bradley County and Calhoun counties. There's so much moisture in place and just enough lift that we have seen a few, and I really mean few, isolated sprinkles or a light shower popping up. Here's the high resolution radar. One lone shower just to the northwest of you folks in Searcy over the community of Crosby that may hold together as it drifts its way off to the east, but most locations out there today will stay dry. We've got a breeze in place once again coming in from the southwest, about 10 to 20 miles per hour. But look at the dew points. They're into the 70s. So you step outside and it just ruins your hair and it starts to make you sweat right away. Here's your feels like temperatures. It feels like 90 in Little Rock. Ignore that 104 in Conway because it was saying the dew point was in the low 80s. That is incorrect. That sensor is going crazy right now, it looks like. 89 is what it feels like in Stuttgart, and it feels like 90 in Arkadelphia. What can you expect through the rest of your Tuesday? We'll see a mixture of sun and clouds. Temperatures, once again, record highs will be in jeopardy for many spots. I'll have more on that and let you know when we'll see some relief from this early summertime heat coming up.
Thanks, Nathan. And new at noon, Saracen Casino Resort's online sports wagering app is online this afternoon. Bet Saracen is now the second online mobile sports book available in Arkansas and comes a little more than 2 months after lawmakers legalized mobile sports betting. Players can either download the app from the Apple App Store or place wagers on the Bet Saracen website. We're going to have more on the development tonight at 5 and 6. Most viewed on thv-at-noon.com, the mystery hepatitis X syndrome may have reached Arkansas. The Department of Health is investigating an unexplained illness in a child last year. THV11's Ashley Godwin tells us about the first possible case and what doctors are learning about the outbreak.
The Department of Health tells me the patient was a child and was sick in 2021. We're just now finding out about this possible case because the CDC released guidelines that said unusual sicknesses in children could be this mysterious hepatitis.
Partners and different clinicians around the state are kind of going, maybe that case I had back in different hospitals will look back through their records and see if they have anybody that fit it.
The CDC has asked doctors to report cases of unexplained liver damage in children under 10, going all the way back to October of last year, when a cluster of 9 children had this mystery syndrome in Alabama.
These weren't kids that had prior health problems that sometimes you see hepatitis more often in. These weren't immunocompromised children.
Doctors tested them for the usual causes of hepatitis, but everything came back negative. They did, however, test positive for a common stomach bug, adenovirus 41.
So it's unclear yet whether that's the smoking gun or not. It's looking like the most likely suspect, but it's not clear.
At first, this disease looks like an ordinary case of nausea or diarrhea, but if liver damage sets in, a new symptom shows up: jaundice. That's when the skin or eyes turn yellow. And it's rare, and most children with stomach problems don't have hepatitis.
The first thing is right now there's no reason to panic.
Right now, the advice on preventing it is something you've heard before.
Have your kids washing their hands as frequently as possible, especially when they're eating, because adenovirus, all kinds of viruses, kids mostly acquire them through dirty hands going in the mouth.
In Little Rock, Ashley Godwin, THV11 News.
Thank you, Ashley. The sick child has recovered. That's typically the outcome for most children with this syndrome, but some needed liver transplants, and unfortunately, 5 have died. Now to a thv-11 update. This afternoon, Little Rock police are releasing new information about a homicide that happened last week. Investigators are now sharing the victim's name with the public. 23-year-old James Wiggins was shot and killed last Wednesday at 45 Greenway Drive. No word yet on possible suspects. The community of Pine Bluff asking for the violence to stop this week after a deadly shooting at one of the city's parks. 18-year-old Terry Johnson Jr. died when gunfire broke out during a family gathering at Regional Park in Pine Bluff Saturday evening. Several others were hurt, including an 11-year-old. The shootings come ahead of Forward Fest, an event happening this weekend at that same park, which has some people concerned, but organizers say they're prepared.
Forward Fest will be a wonderful family-oriented event. It has been going on since 2018. We've never had a problem at Forward Fest, and we don't anticipate having any issues this year.
There's also a clear bag policy in place for Forward Fest, and over 30 law enforcement officers will be on scene. U.S. intelligence officials testified to lawmakers today that Russian President Vladimir Putin is preparing for a prolonged battle in Ukraine. Pentagon officials say the recent strikes on the southwestern city are part of a Russian effort to keep Ukraine from shifting resources to the east, where the battle between the two is now the heaviest. Ukraine's ambassador was invited to meet with lawmakers on Capitol Hill today as the Biden administration is pushing Congress to quickly pass additional funding for humanitarian and military aid. The escaped Alabama inmate who was taken into custody last night after nearly 2 weeks on the run with a corrections official is set to appear in court today. Police cornered Casey White and Vicky White after a 15-minute car chase in Evansville, Indiana. The inmate, who was serving a sentence for attempted murder, surrendered. Authorities say the corrections official shot herself and later died from her injury. White is serving a 75-year sentence for attempted murder and other charges and is awaiting a murder trial that, if convicted, could see him face the death penalty. And while the world grappling with the COVID pandemic in 2020, gun deaths climbed to a record high. The CDC is reporting deaths by firearms that year increased 35% to reach its highest level in over 25 years. Nearly 5,000 more lives were lost to gun homicide in 2020 than in 2019. The firearm suicide rate also remained high, and guns were the leading cause of death among children and teens in 2020. CDC researchers will discuss their findings later today. And later today, President Biden is expected to lay out what he's doing to lower costs for American families. Inflation has driven up prices more than 8%, with gas hitting a new record overnight, according to AAA. And as Nancy Cortez reports, it is becoming a key political issue leading up to the midterm elections.
Gas prices shot up 17 cents this past week. The relentless price surge could prove costly in November's midterm elections.
Certain purchases I used to make, I just can't make them purchases no more.
The rising cost of food has pushed budgets to the brink.
From coast to coast, local airwaves are filled with stories about the rising cost of everything.
Soaring housing prices are a sore subject for many in South Florida.
Gas prices in Pennsylvania soar to a new record.
The Eastern Plains is filled with farmers feeling the pinch in this tight economy.
The issue is now dominating President Biden's agenda.
My top priority is fighting inflation and lowering prices for families.
The president is taking some action, releasing 1 million barrels per day from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to bring down gas prices, asking Congress to pass clean energy and vehicle tax credits, and boosting the fuel economy standards for cars and trucks.
The typical American is spending $100 more a month on gasoline now than they were a year ago.
Moody's chief economist Mark Zandi says inflation has long-term effects, forcing families to save less for education, retirement, or to buy a home.
I do think the pandemic will fade, and I think of the worst of the fallout of the Russian invasion of Ukraine on our economies behind us. But it's not going to get back to anything we consider to be normal very quickly.
This has already become a top campaign issue. We are seeing ads about inflation in loads of congressional races. And that's why everyone is going to be watching so closely tomorrow when new numbers are released that economists predict could indicate a slight slowing in inflation over the past month. Nancy Cortez, CBS News, the White House.
Today, the Arkansas State Police honors 19 fallen troopers and remembers the sacrifice they made during their service. This morning's memorial took place at the ASP headquarters, where their names were read and a rose presented to each of their families.
ASP is a family, and family always takes care of each other during the good times and the bad times. To the surviving families, all current, former, and retired ASP personnel, you are always family in the door of the Arkansas State Police.
Today's event comes ahead of National Police Week, which begins Sunday to allow the Arkansas survivor families to attend services in Washington, D.C. next week. And with the weather heating up, you may be thinking about hitting the lake, but one doctor and mother is warning parents of a danger sitting below the surface. Her message still ahead. Plus, the commercial said it's free. It turned out not to be. Now we need to verify exactly how much you're owed from TurboTax, coming up in 8 minutes. Nathan?
It's going to be another toasty day by May standards here in Central Arkansas. And the heat sticks around for the next few days, but there is some cooler weather and also the chance of showers and storms entering back in the forecast. I'll let you know when coming up.